which is a Illinois state natural area as it has never been farmed. The land is carved from glaciers with hills and ravines and oak forest that are being restored in order to allow new oaks to grow. They're currently crowded out by non-native plants and other faster growing trees. Forest Preserve has over 62 million visitors each year. With during the pandemic, that went up 3 times with the number of people going there. Currently, the Forest Preserve consists of over 70,000 acres of land. And if the referendum passes, the goal will be to buy some more available high quality land, in addition to the other important goals that the extra money will allow. There are over 100 threatened and endangered species that rely on the forest preserves. And you can definitely see this during bird migratory season. And this year, the Midwest of the United States was the place to be to watch birds. And the increase in birds coming through has been attributed to the restoration of the prairies and the grasslands that allows the birds to rest and nest. And just yesterday in the Daily Herald, if you get the Daily Herald, there was this lovely article, I don't know if you can see it, and the importance of, now that doesn't work, does it? Green space is for the birds. And it talked about surveys of birds and indicated that some local nesters previously in decline are stabilizing or even growing in numbers. Particularly, they mentioned the Henslow sparrow, which I don't think I've ever seen, and the red-headed woodpecker. The report is based on 22 years of surveys, and it's a positive result attributed to green space and so much land that's being actively managed and restored. The protected lands are critical to the health of all of our nesting birds. Lastly, the Forest Preserve is a special unit of government. It cannot raise its own taxes. They need to come to the voters. So Cook County commissioners happen to serve a dual role as Cook County commissioners and Forest Preserve commissioners. And that's unlike other counties such as DuPage County that actually has separate commissioners. So let's talk about the importance of the forest preserves. If you look on this map, it's pretty stark. The one on the left on my, which must be what you're looking at too, in the 1800s, all of that green space, that's what Cook County used to look like. But in the 2010s, you see most of the land is developed. On the right side, the green space that you see is pretty much the forest preserves. So overall, we now live in a world with more human-built stuff than nature. There are now over 8 billion people in the world, which is twice the amount since the 1970s, when researchers believed the world was in balance. We have the same size Earth. So this growth has contributed to biodiversity and species loss, specifically habitat loss. In my community, there's a plot of former unincorporated farmland. It was about 70 acres that's been incorporated by another community just south of me. And they're planning to put monster houses on this land, about 65. And I'm concerned that it will impact our water table because we have wells and the new housing and people will be drawing on that water table. And we'll also lose that land that currently captures and filters the water and protects us from flooding. The Forest Preserve offers year-round programming. Conservation is the Forest Preserve's main mission, but they do offer year-round access. During the pandemic, parks, health clubs, even Lake Michigan paths were closed down. And I actually am a Forest Preserve Watch volunteer, and part of that role is counting people. So I go to the forest and I can testify that during the pandemic, that number of people coming through went up threefold. People were in the forest for exercise, for mental health, for solitude, for recreation, and just for sanity. And families need the forest preserves to open up the natural world to their children in a vibrant and affordable way. And most of the programs are free. So on election day, We're going to have this ballot question. And it is legalese as what you see from the way it looks. And I've had people ask, what is this language? But it's what you have to legally put in here. But the bigger concern is that it's going to be at the end of the ballot. So it's after the judges. So we really need to educate people to go to the end. And what it will take to pass this referendum is 50% of the people that vote for the ballot plus one. So what is the ballot asking? What is the measure? They're asking for 0.025% increase in property tax levy, which comes out to about $20 a year. You can see my $20 bill for an average Cook County homeowner. And what is that? Maybe 4 Starbucks. Also, the ballot states that it will supply public disclosure of expenditures. So there are a lot of reasons to vote for the referendum, but let's talk about the top 5 reasons. Cleaner air and less pollution. Forests filter the air and they absorb pollution. It's a huge issue for people with asthma. Forests absorb greenhouse gases. They're a carbon sink, and they absorb as much greenhouse gas as 330,000 cars on the road. The forests absorb heat, and they help to cool an area. You can definitely tell that just by walking on a path in the sun or being in a city area where there are no trees versus walking under a sidewalk or on a sidewalk with tree cover, or maybe taking a walk in the forest. The forests offer cleaner water sources and less flooding. Forests, particularly healthy, restored forest, help to absorb water and then filter the water through the ground. Additionally, concrete does not absorb water, and all the concrete around us contributes to flooding. The forests help to contain water, particularly during heavy rains. And our precipitation has increased due to rising temperatures from climate change. So forests are our friends. They decrease the damaging impact of single-day rainfall totals exceeding 2.5 inches, which has occurred in the last 2 years in Chicago. Not to mention the impact on Lake Michigan and our clean water supply when runoff and wastewater is released into the lake. The forests offer protection for local habitat and wildlife. Natural areas, particularly restored areas, support our native flora and fauna. If you take a walk in the forest preserve in the springtime, which I hope you have and will, you will see wildflowers blooming all over the place, which is spectacular. And the forests offer respite, food, and protection for migratory birds and pollinators. I happen to enjoy birding, and this last spring I saw scarlet tanagers, summer tanagers, bluebirds. Up to 90% of threatened and endangered species can be found in Cook County, that can be found in Cook County, live in the forest preserves. So rusty patch bumblebee, which I have been told are in the forest preserves, I haven't seen them yet, but that used to be one of the most common bees in North America, and now nobody could probably explain what it looks like. And habitat loss has contributed to their loss. And additionally, you have maybe heard of major concerns with insect populations crashing. So this is a concern overall for biodiversity and our food system. And the natural habitat of the forest preserves helps to support our pollinators. So I've talked about restoration of lake preserve or forest preserve land. So what does that mean? Currently, there's about 15,000 acres that are under restoration in the forest preserves. The goal is to remove invasive species like buckthorn or garlic mustard, which are quite tenacious, which is how they originally survived in non-native soil. And interestingly enough, buckthorn has berries that the generalist birds will eat, and it's a diuretic. So as the birds fly and poop, you get more buckthorn. So restoring an area and staying on it, you have to be very consistent, is really hard work. The problem with the non-natives is it just doesn't support local insects and birds, and it overwhelms native trees and plants. So we're trying to restore oaks, which is the most biodiverse tree, by opening up the overstory and clearing out the underbrush. This allows the new saplings to take hold by getting adequate sunlight and not getting crowded out by more aggressive and faster growing plants. A lot of current forest preserve lands were former farms. So restoration work includes removing old drain tiles so the water can flow naturally and increase the vital wetlands. Doing prescribed burns, which helps the health of the land and allows some seeds to open. With the referendum, the goal is to double the amount of land under restoration up to 30,000 acres. Another last reason here that we're talking about is jobs for our communities. And this includes summer jobs and scholarships for historically underserved communities. The Forest Preserve, in partnership with other organizations such as the Friends of the Forest Preserve, runs a Conservation Corps program and offers paying jobs to underserved communities, particularly Black and Brown. And restoration is hard work. These people get into the hard work of removing the invasives and doing prescribed burns. They learn job training and they earn certifications. They gather and spread native seeds. The Conservation Corps, as I mentioned, is a paid job. It's a goal to work with low-income communities, both the people and the land. They currently have over 2,500 alumni. And during one of the Forest Preserve Commissioners meetings that I listened to, there were several alumni who shared their involvement in the program as having they came away with a larger sense of purpose. And one speaker said that he had been incarcerated and he had difficulty getting a job, but now he has a career. The experience so far indicates high retention rates and high level able to obtain a job after training. 60% have gotten a job in conservation. The money from the referendum will offer up more job opportunities, estimated to be 200, and help young people who have had difficulty getting a job to learn skills. So, voting. This is a reminder on voting, and all leaguers should know the importance and remember the referendum at the end of the ballot on the November 8th ballot. Plus, we need to get the word out to our friends and our neighbors. This is talking about our coalitions, and we're not alone, and we're very good company. There are over 150 organizations that have signed on to this coalition, Vote Yes. So League of Women Voters, Cook County, and all of the league chapters, including League of Women Voters Elgin, which has a piece of Cook County and the Forest Preserve in its community. So some of the other good company that we're engaged with is like the Shedd Aquarium and the Field Museum and the Museum of Science and Industry and the Friends of the Chicago River and the Morton Arboretum. So if you wanted to peruse all these different organizations, it's pretty amazing. So we are online, and I want you to be aware that you can go to Vote Yes, forestpreserves.com, and there's a wealth of information on there. So even if you had a neighbor or someone who asked about it, there is one tab is under resources, and you can actually print it off, and it's available in English and Spanish. So I want to also suggest that you may also get on there and take the pledge and click to say that you would vote for the Forest Preserve referendum. And the reason to do that is just kind of for the coalition group to gauge how many people are being reached and how many people are positive for the referendum. In addition, we have palm cards. It's a two-sided piece for use during league events or farmers markets or walks in the wood. You could walk, if you want to schedule some events or need help, just let us know. If you have church groups or book clubs, we're willing to educate and talk about the referendum and the importance of getting it passed. So thank you very much. I'm delighted to entertain any questions you might have with my buddy, Trudy. And I will stop sharing now.
I'm Holly Heat, and I have a question.
Sure.
See, I turned off my video. Any rate, I live at the Mather in Evanston, where we have about 200 residents. And I know that most people here don't know about it. And when they do, the reaction I usually get is, oh, it's just another tax increase. And they have no interest in even hearing about it. And I got these flyers today from Elizabeth Kinney, and they're wonderful, but I can't distribute them because they say vote yes. And we can't distribute anything or have any presentations that are pro something. We have to have both sides presented. So I'm wondering if there's something, is there something on that website? I know it's in support of, trying to get people to support the referendum, but is there something there that's impartial? Like why would you not vote for it? Well, obviously, people think there are too many taxes, but first off, if someone wants these, I have about 20 of them, and I hate to waste them, but I also just wonder if you've got some other resource that's impartial, because I'm trying to, I just decided to try to do it today with these various things that are going to be on the ballot that are new. I want to find a place to put information, but it all has to be impartial.
Actually, there is something.
Good.
There is a piece that has been developed, and it's available at the Forest Preserve nature centers. There's 6 of those. I think it's 6. And I have an electronic version of it, or I can get an electronic version. And that will give you just the overall facts about it. And you're right, the vote yes is a request that people vote yes to support our clean air, our clean water. And yes, it is an impact on the property tax, but minimal. But what I can do for you is, Holly, is I'll get it to, Betty is kind of my contact.
Okay.
So I will dig that out in my emails and I can send that over and she can distribute it to all of you. But I appreciate you asking and letting people know about it. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Actually, Holly, if you want to give me those things, I'll hand them out in this building.
I was hoping you'd say that.
I mean, and
like a block apart. Yes.
I think anyone who really heard the discussion wouldn't object to a very small increase in their taxes.
Right.
I mean, in order to keep the forest preserve healthy. But Laura, I actually wanted to ask you, I attended one of the presentations that the coalition put together, and I was impressed with how focused they were on spreading the word and making sure the arguments were clear and so on, because other than people who are just totally opposed to any increase in taxes at all, and I guess there are people like that, I mean, is there any substantive opposition to this referendum, or is it really just the tax boogeyman?
Yeah, actually, I think that's it, Betty, because the coalition is pretty impressive. And there was a reach out to the groups that are kind of the anti-tax. And interestingly enough, most people agree that the Cook County Forest Preserves are really, really well run. They're good governance, that all of us benefit because of clean water, less flooding. There's just, if you pay now or you're going to pay later. And they liked that it was a targeted tax.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why the importance of stressing too that the Cook County Forest Preserve is a separate district. A lot of people want to bundle it into Cook County government, and a lot of people have attitudes about Cook County government, but this is its own separate district. And if I might mention too, their current budget is $137 million for all the forest preserves. I mean, the value that we get out of that, their operating budget is 63 million. But the referendum will generate 45 million with that little bit of 0.025%. But the value we'll get to have money space that's available. I mean, trees alone to decrease the temperature and water. I mean, flooding is a big deal where I'm at. And I just don't think even this little piece that got bought and is going to be built on 70 acres, you know, we're going to have some flooding.
I just wanted to say that we did run a walk in Perkins Woods earlier this summer, and Evanston has a small little piece of forest preserve right in the middle of Evanston. So that's kind of a nice thing to have.
It's a very nice thing to have. And I'm sorry I missed that one. I tried to get to as many as yeah. So any other questions? Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Irene Elkin. And I started with a question similar to Holly's because I'm at the Marion. So there are similar issues. But also I co-lead the Climate Issues in Action Group of North Shore Village Network. So what I want to ask is the availability of speakers for a program, if we can have a program on this issue. I think it would have a lot of interest. Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm Trudy. We got a little team. If we can get the word out, we're happy to do it. Remember, however, that we are asking for people to vote yes. So it would be this presentation, basically. Would you want it as a Zoom or do you want it in person? I can't hear you.
Yeah, Irene, you're on mute, Irene. Irene, you need to unmute.
Okay, I'm back. We're just starting to have committee meetings in person. So we'll have to decide what's possible, but we'd like to do it obviously before the election if we decide to do this. We have a problem when things involve asking for money.
Yeah.
Because our organization needs money and they didn't want us asking. I was trying to work with Fund for Trees with Rachel Rosner and the Citizens Greener Evanston, Leslie Shad and that group. So I ran into some problems with that. But I have a feeling that this wouldn't evoke some of the same questions because we're not asking for money. We are asking for a vote. It's not a partisan vote. I mean, it may be in essence a partisan vote, but that's not what it is. So that I will be in touch with you. Will you be sending the information on how to contact people at this meeting or just separate information from you?
Betty would have everything.
I can do that. I can do that.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I will do that, Irene.
Yeah, good. Okay. And we are having our committee meeting isn't going to be until October 12th. So it's running into time, but I will raise it with the committee at that time and see if we can perhaps set something up. I certainly would like to.
And I have to leave, but thank you. And if I have any questions, I'll just reply to the email if you send me the impartial information. And Betty,
Thank you for coming.
I said, we'll talk later about the logistics. So.
Okay, yeah, you can just drop it off or I can pick
Well,
it up.
yeah,
Are there any other, are there other questions for Laura? I actually have one. And this is also a little bit partisan. You said that the forest preserve is generally considered to be well managed, and I've heard that also, but I've also heard that 20 years ago, maybe it wasn't
20 years
to be well managed. And my impression is that Tony Preckwinkle did appoint a very good person as director of the Forest Preserve, and that's made a huge difference. Is that true, do you think, or do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, actually, I do. And I would say the leadership of Superintendent Arnie Randall has really steered this. And he is, I'm a little biased. I've met him and I think he's just an exceptional human being. And he is a engager. And they set up a next century conservation plan that you can get online and see. Everything is out there. So when I talk about good governance, there's nothing hidden. And you can see the goals and how far the goals have been achieved. So it's just remarkable. And I think it's 15 years that he's been there. So if you're going to go back before, yes, there is that reputation. And I just say, go out to the forest now and see what's going on. Because you can really see the impacts.
Well, and I think 15 years of good management, I mean, it's very impressive. And I mean, and as you're saying, I think there's plenty of evidence of that, including, very active usage of the forest preserve.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Trudy, go ahead, unmute yourself. Trudy?
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say that I began to get involved with this just by a visit to the forest preserves with the League of Women Voters, and just to see the extraordinary work that's being done out in the preserves and the dedication of the people who work there and their commitment to conservation and restoration was just so extraordinary that it made me really want to get more involved in trying to help and to save and to grow what we already have, which is so extraordinary. So, I mean, just go out there sometime. I think that's really the key.
Well,
And I just also wanted to say that the walks that have been sponsored have been able to get people out into the preserves, and really, they're guided walks by people who are passionate about this. And I think it's just been extraordinary. So thank you, Laura, for doing all this and getting this moving.
Thank
And
you.
I was gonna
I
say-
am passionate, but I'm not alone.
Yeah.
I was also going to say thank you, Trudy, because you really organized that walk in Perkins Woods in Evanston. And as you said, I mean, lots of people in Evanston don't know that
Yeah.
it's part of the forest preserve there. And so it's very useful to introduce people to that.
Well, we had a walk there that Libby Hill was involved in. I don't know if it's the same one that you were,
Might be.
Trudy, or
Yeah.
This is Mary Kelly. Laura, did you say the referenda will pass if 50% of those voting for the referenda are yeses +1?
+1. Yeah, it just needs a majority. And I'm counting on all of you
But only of the voters who vote on the referenda.
that vote on the referendum. Yeah, which is why it's so important to let people know to get through the judges, get through the end.
I'm afraid the judges are really an obstacle, but
They
we'll tell
really,
people.
they fatigue people, don't they?
Any other questions or comments for Laura? We can let you go home early. I mean, I will say, Laura, I remember when you really introduced this issue to the Cook County League Board. I mean, and how much work has gone into that body learning about the forest preserve. I mean, and Cook County government is one of the things that Cook County League focuses on, and only tangentially and not always looking at the forest preserve, but it's so important and it's such a resource. And your basic point that it's only going to become more important and it needs resources is something. I mean, I hope that every one of us who's here tonight can pass the word along and remind people and inform people. That's the League of Women Voters' job. So if there are no other questions, we'll let you go home. Thank you so much, Laura. We all appreciate this, and, please wave your hands and stand on your heads. We're delighted that, you're putting yourself right in a scenic place to remind us how important this is. So thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, and appreciate you guys caring about it, and get the word out.
We'll spread the word.
I know. Thank you very much. Okay, good night.
Bye-bye.